Hey everyone, and welcome back to Token Talk. Now today we're going to be talking about XRP because it's looking like we could potentially be seeing this be the run where we hit that fabled $3 amount, which would be super cool. There's a lot of things indicating that we could potentially be seeing that, so I did want to talk a little bit about that, go into the charts, talk about the charts, all that type of stuff. I also want to share a little bit of a warning that we can see sometimes within the overall crypto ecosystem. Just remember to keep your wits about you. Always make sure, you're turning your brain on and understanding some of the things and kind of the why behind a lot of what we're talking about. But anyway, we'll go over that here later on in the video. To start, I did want to take a look at crypto bubbles just because we can see a pretty strong pump on the day. We can see actually XRP, one of the ones kind of not necessarily leading the market, but doing really quite well, right? I mean, AI16Z doing very well, XDC, IOTA, Virtuals, XLM kind of being the ones that are doing really quite well. And then we've got Tau also doing particularly well, and Phantom as well. So, things looking decent there, but XRP again up 13% on the day, looking pretty good. We can see green week, XRP actually up almost 5% on the week. Everything else we can see kind of the majority of the market actually sitting in red. We just have seen some really strong greens, particularly among Virtuals and AI16Z, which is like kind of what's turning the market green for the week, even though kind of the majority of the market still is red. The reds are dropping in terms of like magnitude, and also we're starting to see some more greens kind of pop in here and there. So overall, a pretty good indication of kind of where the market is. We're seeing a pretty strong bounce on the day, nice strong start to 2025, which is good. Again, how long this lasts, anything like that, very hard to say. But what we can see on the XRP chart is things looking really nice. So let's actually turn this full screen and we can kind of take a closer look about what we're seeing here. So first off, we can see, kind of a little bit of a wedge forming here, price consolidating. We can see, some pretty major wicks to the downside, but as we've gone, higher lows and also lower highs, which means we do have that price consolidating potentially for a breakout. Now, again, what we can see here is I want to kind of focus on a couple things in particular. So we can see that RSI has kind of started to come up a little bit, sitting around the 60 point. If we get up to 70, that's when kind of we officially get into overbought. Not necessarily like really a concern at this point in time, but RSI kind of holding pretty well. The major concern, or not major concern, but like a larger concern that I have is if we look, we can see Bollinger Bands are actually just sitting right above this wedge right now. And so I think for that reason, we probably don't actually see a breakout coming from XRP within the next day or two. I think best case scenario of what we see from XRP is we break, we close above this level of resistance that was actually turning into like a pretty decent point of resistance. We have successfully broken through it right now. So if we don't wick back down, we close above this, put some volume in on this level of resistance, turning it into a support, essentially get like some decent volume here. And then all the while, we see this Bollinger Band maybe start to kind of shift a little bit to the upside. And even if it just stays kind of neutral, we're getting some more distance between the wedge, essentially like trend line, and the Bollinger Band. So we do have a little bit of room to kind of break through the wedge, establish some momentum, and move to the upside. The reason why this is important is because if we look at the Bollinger Band, we can see this yellow line, or I guess this orange line, acting as kind of like a rubber band of sorts, right? The further that price gets away from this yellow line, the harder it pulls for it to come back. And we can see these blue lines where we can, this is essentially like the outer bands, like the max stretch of the rubber band, right? And so whenever we get out past these blue lines, there's a very strong pull to come back in. And it usually happens very quickly. I think the most extreme example I've seen of things essentially staying outside of the blue lines is this move that we saw in XRP here. Usually, in almost every situation I've seen, things are pulling back within a maximum of probably like 3 to 5 candles. If we look here, we can see it moves up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then on the 9th candle, it finally pulls back into the Bollinger Bands. Now, again, we could see, there wasn't even really much of a drop on price. We could kind of see from here, high to low, pretty decent drop. We did kind of barely touch back into the Bollinger Band here. We actually started in the Bollinger Band at this candle, but we did actually close above it. And then here, we actually do kind of fall back in, and this is essentially like that 9th candle where we do fall back into the Bollinger Band, and then we continue to run back up. But then we can see here, we start not even one candle, and then we're back in the Bollinger Band here. Same type of thing here. If you call this out, I mean, maybe you could if it was just barely. Here, let's say this is the first one. We go 1, 2, and then we're back in, of course. And even on the second one, this is kind of like where we're in. We can also see we come out here, we're not even out for a full candle. Same type of thing, we're not even out here for a full candle. So, we see wicks here and there, and usually that's what happens, right? Something like this, or something like this, or something like this, where we see wicks out, but they're like always coming back in. So this is kind of the most extreme example that we have seen of Bollinger Bands. But if we look, it holds pretty strong kind of overall. And so we can see that like, even within just kind of a handful of candles, we're going to be returning back within the Bollinger Bands. So that's why I do think it's pretty important that we are seeing Bollinger Bands so close to the wedge trend line here, is because if we were to break out of this wedge, it would almost certainly be a false breakout, because we're very likely going to be coming in the wedge within the next couple of candles, or maybe even just kind of settling on it. But usually when you break out from a wedge, it comes with a little bit of momentum. You see some pace, you see some velocity, and that's where we would, in my opinion, at least be seeing that like legendary like $3 run on XRP. I do think it's possible in January. I do think, like I said, kind of best case scenario, we see just some consolidation here, and then we see a really strong move. We kind of bump into this like upper trend line, see the strong move, hopefully break through this level of resistance that we have seen give us some issues before, and then again take that run up at previous highs of this cycle, and then go up to that $3 mark. I think things, that to me seems to be kind of the most likely scenario. There is also the other scenario too of like, maybe the like less bullish scenario that we potentially, don't hold this level of support. We come back down maybe to this like $2.16 range. Maybe we even come all the way back down to the lower level of the wedge that we're seeing, bounce up again, and then we'd have to take that next run up again through 1, 2, and then the third level of resistance kind of being that trend line all the way on back up. Now again, if we do start to see another move to the downside, we may see the Bollinger Bands kind of start to continue to follow this trend line down, which is going to give essentially a much more difficult resistance, which is why I say that kind of holding this level of support and giving some space between this descending wedge trend line and also the Bollinger Band, kind of to give us some more like room to maneuver kind of between those, right? And so anyway, that's kind of what I'm seeing on the XRP chart today. If you are interested in trading XRP, we do have that link to BITUNIX below, up to $5,500 in deposit bonuses if that is something you're interested in. So if you are interested, just go ahead, check that out below there. Things looking really, really good though for XRP. We might be seeing $3 by the end of January. I think it's entirely possible. Now, the one thing that I did want to show you is just kind of a word of warning, a word of caution. Hopefully most of the viewers on this channel are somewhat well sophisticated in terms of how crypto works, things to kind of watch out for, and when people are just kind of being a little bit silly, right? And now this could be a level of like, there's essentially two versions of things that could be happening here. I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I'm hoping that this is essentially just a level of ignorance. If not, it is probably more malicious than that, where they're trying to essentially like lead people into a false reality or a false hope that's just never going to happen. I mean, again, it's crypto, anything could happen, not financial advice, all of that type of good stuff. But man, oh man, I mean, if we see 100x on XRP in January, I mean, the world will have officially lost its mind. I mean, completely insane. There's almost no realistic way this happens. Keep in mind, XRP isn't like $100,000 market cap. It's $100 billion market cap. It's the fourth largest crypto. There's no way it goes and pulls 100x in a month. It's just wild stuff. And again, like if you look at the reasoning here, the reasoning here is completely fallacious. We're talking about $20 trillion entering the XRP ledger. We're talking about the Japanese economy, big money like BlackRock and JP Morgan, and then also Swift, which is set to be using XRP. I've heard this whole Swift thing. I don't actually think anything is like actually set in stone. Again, 20 trillion, like maybe the combination of all of the assets under management for all of these entities maybe is equal to 20 trillion, but that doesn't mean that XRP itself is going to be worth $20 trillion. Like that's just stupid. And so anyway, like I'm not trying to like heap FUD on XRP or anything like that. I'm just trying to show you that like this is the type of stuff that can happen, and particularly like if you aren't keeping your wits about you and kind of really critically thinking and understanding what some of these people are talking about, you can potentially get yourself into trouble. I think $3 in January, 100% doable, maybe even likely at this point. $5 for this bull run, very doable. $10 maybe, possible. That would be a pretty large market cap for XRP, but I think it's doable, right? I don't think it's like unreasonable per se. I mean, I think XRP itself is entirely a little bit crazy, but that's not to say that like it can't happen, right? That's all within the realm of reason, at least to a degree, right? I mean, $317, at least in my opinion, is nowhere even close to being within the realm of reason. So just something to always make sure that you're keeping an eye on. We can see this has gotten 320,000 views on Twitter, so hopefully of those people, not too many are like actually taking this at face value, and they're kind of like putting their own level of skepticism on it, because really, I mean, that's what a post like that deserves. So anyway, hopefully you did find the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, just drop them in the comment section below. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.